È attiva, fantastico, eccola. Ecco. Bene. Sopra. Benissimo. Hello everyone, I think we can start. I'm presenting myself very quickly. I know all of you in this room know me, but since we are streaming on YouTube, maybe someone doesn't know me and doesn't know our association. I'm Marco Zullic. I am the president of the AI Student Society, AI2S in short. I will quickly present the association. So we are a student association. We are not limited to the University of Trieste, even if right now the vast majority of our member is from the University of Trieste. We collect students interested in artificial intelligence and data science. So you don't need to be studying actively artificial intelligence. You just need to be interested in this field. We do mainly two things: promote professional growth of the students by creating thematic events for students interested in artificial intelligence. And we put these students, our members, in contact with experts and institutions in these sectors. Okay, so our initiatives are mainly twofold. As I said before, thematic events like scientific dissemination and connection with academia and industry. And socialization and help desk. This is mainly directed at off-site and foreign students here in Trieste, so they can get in contact with local students and create bonds with them. These are some examples of our events, like scientific dissemination. and etc. Our plans for the first semester of 2022. Today, of course, the research fair, the second part. The first part was in December. In March, we have this very interesting event, AI2S AI Talks, which is a scientific dissemination for general audience. And we will have three dates, all in March. Intro to AI on the 2nd of March, STEM applications on the 16th of March, and digital humanities application on the 31st of March. This is the second main event of the year, which is the job fair. It is very similar to the research fair, but instead of meeting researchers, you have the opportunity to meet workers and CEOs of mainly small firms here in Trieste, but also outside of our territory. And finally, the end of the year party, which is more a socialization event, which we will organize in July. So this is to call a call for you students to join the association. Right now, you can see I'm a third-year PhD student. Nicholas, who is kindly helping me today, is a second-year master student. So in a few years, we won't be students anymore, and we will need new members, especially to take part in the organization of the events of our association. So if you are from home and you like these events, you maybe also attended the seminar from Professor Canziani in December. If you like those events, please consider joining us to support the creation of events like these. And also, if you like to cooperate into the organization of our association, please contact us at our social pages, or to join, head to this link over here, www.ai2s.it/join-ai2s. We also can consider membership requests from PhD students, not only master's and bachelor students. Okay, just to present today's event. Right now we'll have a brief introduction of our professors and researchers who have decided to join us for today. 3 minutes each, and then the main phase of this event, which is the meet and greet. You will be able to talk directly with the researchers that we have kindly here today. In-presence attendees will be able to roam around the room and ask questions to them, while remote attendees will be able to talk with the professors and the researchers with the modalities that are written in this link over here. So cat.ly/S/U, N, J, L, B7. You will find also the link in the description of the YouTube video. There will be 2 Microsoft Teams rooms, and you'll be able to talk to them. Each professor will have a 10-minute window, which he will dedicate to the remote attendees asking for questions. Okay, so have fun. Again, here you find the link to our site, ai2s.it. Visit it if you consider joining us or you like our events. Okay, perfect. So, right now, I will call for the first professor to come to the stage, Professor Silvio Barban Jr. He's a young professor. He's been here in Trieste for less than a month. So this will also serve as a presentation of himself and his activities to all of the students here who probably don't know him. Okay, perfect.
Okay, thank you. First of all, thank you for this opportunity to share my research. As mentioned, I'm here at Trieste for a month, just a month. Yesterday we complete a month. And I'm here with just 3 minutes to present my research area. Particularly, I would like to share this idea of boosting AI tasks with meta-learning. Okay? What is meta-learning? Nowadays, we have several kind of machine learning applications. For example, stream processing, data mining, speech processing, computer vision, pattern recognition, and so on. all of these techniques, all of these applications needs to adjust several steps of their pipelines. For example, we need to choose the right algorithm, we need to select the most important or the most suitable training procedures, hyperparameters, and so on. For an expert user or an expert, sorry, thank you. For an expert user in a particular domain, it's easy to face this challenge, to tune. However, we have some barriers. And on the other hand, for new practitioners, I mean new people that would like to work with these applications, these barriers, it's so hard to cross. So here we can observe these barriers as the main focus of meta-learning, or how can help you using another machine learning solution. And this is the main idea. We have historical knowledge for different kind of data sets, different kind of problems, and we can extract this knowledge based on meta features, I mean, based on some characteristics that we can extract for the problems. For example, the complexity, the number of instance, the kind of features, the granularity, the cardinality. We have several kind of features we can observe from these problems, creating a metadatabase. We call this as a metadatabase, where each meta instance is an example, and based on these features we can create an intelligent model called meta model. This meta model simulates a tool that can help driven the user, driven the practitioner to the right solution, considering time, cost, or accuracy, for example. So we can define the target, and we can suggest, using this machine learning model, the right solutions. We can think something like this. We have several problems and some solutions that we can match using an intelligent system. Okay? So this example is an example of an online stream mining solution. We have a stream of data, and we can train a particular model. For example, incremental tree. We can induce an incremental tree. We can make some predictions, and we can, for example, handle the situation with some problems called concept drift, when my problem changes over the time. And using a particular meta-learning model, we can discover the best algorithm or the best hyperparameters in an online way. So we can suggest, or we can automatically define the best solution online for a particular problem. We have several kind of applications. However, here I would like to show for example, stream mining or online process of data. For example, Internet of Things, new sensors, Industry 4.0. We have several applications, and using meta-learning, we can, for example, an opportunity to create a robust framework suggesting different parts or different algorithms, hyperparameters, or sequence of solutions. We can, for example, extract new meta features. I mean, how can I describe a particular problem? I can use, for example, the number of colors, considering an image processing task. I can use, for example, the size of a data set, or size of a database, considering a data set solution. I don't know. 3, explore online meta-learnings, new algorithms to suggest. For example, I can use an incremental tree or a random forest. What is the best one? We can automatically suggest this. And the last opportunity, tuning this algorithm. We can go beyond the algorithm and adjust their hyperparameters, okay? And finally, it's important here to observe different kind of contributions that we can have. Here, I can share a contribution in the natural science area. Here, in process mining, I mean business process mining, suggesting different algorithms to handle event logs, trying to discover patterns and detect anomaly and a particular information system. Here, we suggested different pipelines for in order to solve multi-target regression problems. And this one, we used meta-learning to suggest the best setup for a graph-based data set. Okay? So we have several opportunities to explore meta learning helping AI tasks, from data sets to image processing and machine learning itself. So where we can contribute, creating, studying new meta features, and how can we describe a problem, or suggesting the whole pipeline, or adjusting as fine-tuning in particularities, situations of this complex scenario, okay? So this is the message that I would like to pass, and how we can use meta learning to help other machine learning or artificial intelligence tasks. Thank you.
Thank you, Silvio. And next up, we have Professor Castelli from the Department of Engineering and Architecture. Also, Silvio Barbon Jr. is from the Department of Engineering and Architecture.
Okay.
Okay, good morning everyone. My name is Lorenzo Castelli from the Department of Engineering and Architecture here at University of Trieste. We have this OR lab, so Operational Research Lab. And basically, what is optimization? What is operational research about? It's mainly about optimization. And put it very simple, we have a function and you want to find the minimum or the maximum of this function, but the domain is subject to some constraint, okay? It's not the entire domain. So, and we want to find what is called the optimal solution, which is a problem that everyone faces in his life, in her life, in many circumstances. Might be easy or might be some more complex situation. And here are just a few examples. Here is a very simple example where everything is linear. Okay, we have a feasible region which is linear. The feasible region is the domain or where we want to optimize, and we want to find which is the maximum of 3x1 plus 5x2 on this domain. Okay, and this is linear. Here it's a very popular problem, which is a traveling salesman problem. Here in this example, we want to connect with we want to make a cycle and connecting all the capitals of Europe. Not all the capital, there is no Portugal, for instance, I don't know why. But, okay, this is a solution. This is an NP-hard problem. It's not very easy to solve, and so on. Or something that you maybe know, you want to find the minimum or the maximum of this function, or you want to find the maximum value of this function. So, in some cases, the problem is trivial, in some cases, it's not trivial at all. And it can be an immense amount of work on how to find this minimum of this maximum. This is a very broad classification. Your optimization problem can be convex, and a specific case is a linear programming. It can be non-convex optimization, so that the domain is not a convex set. So here you can have some integer programming and so on. So depending on where you are, you have different methods, you have different algorithms, you have different ways to solve this problem. All right. So, but basically, what we do, there will be a course in the La Triennale, so in the bachelor program, which is called for the artificial intelligence, which is called optimization. No, it's called algoritmi di ottimizzazione, because this will be in Italian. We are going to deal with linear programming. So if you know how to solve linear programming, you know how to solve quadratic, non-linear, and so on. So this is basically the basis. And the course, which is called mathematical optimization in the master, in the data science scientific computing, there will be just a brief idea of linear programming for those who did not do anything in the bachelor, and we're going to solve the integer linear programming, okay, which is much more popular. There are many examples of integer linear programming, binary programming in our daily lives, okay. So this is basically, and then you can move on. So if you want to find some algorithms to solve the problems, it's not an easy task, because your algorithm can be exact. You find the exact solution. It can be approximate. You don't find the exact solution, but you have an idea on how far you are from this optimal solution, or you don't have any idea. So you solve easily, but you don't know how far you are from your optimal solution. And of course, depending on the problem, they can be much more easier to be in one of these different approaches. Okay, for example, with the TSP, it's not easy to find an access. If you have many nodes this can be just impractical to find this the exact. So you're going to approximate. And meta-heuristics, you know, you have genetic algorithms, you have simulating annealing, you have tabu search, the swarm particles, the ant colonies. There are many different ways when you find heuristics or meta-heuristic approaches. And normally, when you talk about optimization, we assume that we know everything. So the part is the deterministic optimization. But of course, this is the word is not deterministic. So there can be stochastic programming. You have the distribution some parameters. You can be robust optimization. You try to make a kind of worst case analysis, and there is also a kind of connection between optimization and machine learning. This is already 10 years ago. Okay. But they say if you want to make good algorithms for machine learning, you have to optimize. You have many things you can optimize. But vice versa, what we are trying to do now in our lab, we have 2 students which were former students of the SCC. We want to see how machine learning can help to improve optimization algorithms. So it's the other way around, okay? Because we're trying to go on this. On the domain, if you have 10,000 variables, binary variables, you don't know exactly where is the optimal. Maybe some machine learning algorithms can help you to drive and to move into the right direction, into the right side of your domain. There is many applications. Okay, there's many applications. These are maybe old applications, so for many years, or starting during the war. Okay, the Second World War, slightly earlier than that. Just the British, they decide how to put the radars to be aware of where the German planes will arrive. So and the simplest algorithm was designed in 47. So it's something that started during the war. So there are many examples that have been carried on during these years. And now we have also this one. We have many other things like systems biology, the stoichiometric metrics. You want to optimize how the metabolisms can do. So there are many other things that can be done and there are other links with the artificial intelligence and so on. Please go ahead. There are many softwares you can find. There is something you can find in Google, in MATLAB. These are the most common commercial software which are used to solve this linear and integer linear programming. And there is also some, if you go Python, there is many libraries in Python that you can do, but normally these software are much faster than the open source that you can find in Python, for instance, so on. So, but I mean, these are links that you can find and you can play with it. Okay, so next slide, please. Okay, in our lab we have quite a few European projects that we had the opportunity. These are mainly the application that we are doing is mainly on air traffic management in Europe. Most of them are on this subject, and these are the 3 projects that we are currently running. 2 of them will end by the end of June, and another one in the end of December. So this year we have to apply for new projects because otherwise you are short of money. But this is, I mean, there is quite a few projects at European level that you are carrying on. And okay, next slide. Okay, and these are just a slide of some of the universities and organizations we are working with together on this project that are currently running in this moment. Of course, before the pandemic, we had a lot of things to optimize in air traffic management. Now there's less aircraft flying, but I mean, everyone say traffic will recover, and then we'll go again to try to optimize this thing. And I think that's it. It's the last one. Okay, so it's the last one. And okay, I'm here for later on for questions and everything. Okay, thank you.
So next up in our list, we have Dr. Leonardo Gidi from the Department of Economics and Statistics. He's the only representative that we have this year from the statistics side, which has though very interesting projects. So thank you, Leo.
Thank you, Marco, for the invitation. I mean, it's always a pleasure to be here. So, yeah, this is my affiliation. So you can go to the next slide. So briefly who I am, I guess we already met. We already met in the, I mean, for DSSE students. So basically, I'm an assistant professor in DEMS, Department of Economic Statistics and Mathematics. Okay, so basically, here there are some also external collaboration which will be illustrated by the research project. So maybe some of you could be interested in doing some sports analytics models, or maybe some Bayesian inference projects. Also there are some possible open collaborations with the University of Pavia and with the Athens University of Economics and Business. Okay, if you're interested, you can also go to my GitHub page. You can, click and visit for some open projects. Okay, next slides. Okay, basically my research field. So my main research field is about Bayesian inference. So maybe I already met some of you during the Bayesian course, for instance, Marco Engineer. You follow the Bayesian inference course in this DSSC program. So basically, I work in the field of Bayesian mixture models, which is a very flexible set of models to model some very interesting data and clinical data, for instance, or even some other kind of, for instance, commuters flows data. We have an examples in a while. Another kind of project, the open project, is about the choice of robust prior distribution in Bayesian inference. As you may know, Bayesian inference, a very important role in Bayesian inference is about the elicitation of prior distributions. So elicited prior distribution, which should in some sense represent your prior belief about a given problem, is not a very easy task many times. For instance, in clinical research, for instance, also for COVID models, when you have an initial idea, a preliminary idea about the efficacy of a given vaccine, of a given drug, so specifying the prior belief about a given drug, about a given vaccine is not easy at all. So we developed some, let's say, some robust methods on how to specify informations about the efficacies of drugs, of vaccines, of course, before the experiment takes place. For the males, but also for the females, we have also some possible projects about footballs and volleyball. So basically, statistical models to predict and to model the results in football and in volleyball. Also, we work with the, let's say, robust k-means clustering. Maybe some of you already know the k-means clustering. Of course, k-means clustering is a very super famous way of cluster data, but of course has some drawbacks. For instance, it's not very robust if the shape of the clusters, let's say, it's not very spherical. So basically, we developed some alternative ways on work with the robust k-means clusterings. And then, of course, some other projects involving hierarchical models. Very briefly, so this is one work about Bayesian mixture models. The color chains are the Markov chains, which in Bayesian inference are very, very important because the Markov chains allow us to work with MC methods. So basically, in this work, we relabel the Markov chains in order to infer, to get some robust inferential conclusions. In the bottom row plots, you can see that in some sense, the Markov chains are ordered, whereas in the previous, in the up plots, as you can see, the Markov chains are, let's say, not very ordered, not labeled in a good way. So we developed some ways on how to get, let's say, satisfactory inferential conclusions in Bayesian mixture models. This is another example of a Bayesian mixture, how using Bayesian mixtures models to identify subregions within the Friuli-Venezia Giulia regions. This is a real request from the Friuli-Venezia Giulia regions, asking, for instance, to specify smaller subregions according to the flows commuters. So, for instance, depending of how many people go from Trieste to Pordenone, or from Trieste to, let's say, to the mountains, or from other directions, so using the commuter flows to identify distinct possible smaller subregions. This is an example of, let's say, political science with statistics, and the statistics applied to this kind of example can be very interesting. This is another example taken from specifying robust prior distribution in small sample scenarios. For instance, a typical application is about, as I told you before, how to specify prior distribution, for instance, in clinical trials when the sample size is not very big. So not big data, but small data. This is instead some applications about the predictions of the final in 2008 Russian World Cup. So for instance, this is the spectrum of probability for the two finals, France, Croatia, and Belgium versus England. This is the application of statistical models, of course, for sports data and football. In the next slide, instead, you can see an application with volleyball data. This is an example of Robin's k-means clustering. As you can see, this is the true data partition. This is what typically the k-means does. The k-means, what is doing the k-means? The k-means is, due to the spherical characteristics, is collapsing the data, let's say in a bad way, not in a correct way. So basically what the robust k-means clustering does is to recover the true data partitions. For instance, in this case, the sample sizes of the groups are very different from one each other. And this is also what happens, for instance, when we have the typical two sticks representations. True data partition, what the k-means does, and what is typically how the k-means recovers the true data partitions. Okay, so finally, some students had their thesis, unfortunately, about COVID-19 applications. So Arianna, for instance, you did the thesis about COVID-19 applications. COVID-19 is terrible, but the only good point of the COVID-19 is there are a bunch of data. So many students had their thesis about, for instance, RT models or models for intensive care units. This is an experiment we did with Nicola Torelli in the first wave of the COVID-19 2 years ago, developing models, hierarchical Bayesian models, to predict the number of intensive care units for all the Italian regions. So this is something that at least can be useful and helpful for the regions and for the hospitals. Okay? And then, of course, just a sketch of ongoing and future projects for master students and for PhD students. So this is just a very, very not exhaustive list. Of course, if you are interested, we can speak more about this. And in the end, you can also find some references with the most recent works and papers. But of course, if you are interested in some specific projects, even not containing that list, of course, we can have a very, very quick talk afterwards. Okay? I thank you very much. Thank you, Marco and Nicholas, for the invitation.
Okay, so next up we have another new professor for our knowledge here. I invite to come to the stage Professor Stefano Furlani from the Department of Mathematics and Geosciences. He's a geoscientist that has some interesting projects for machine learning students.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I understood another thing, so I have only one slide, but however, I can talk about it. I'm Stefano Furlani. I'm professor of physical geography and geomorphology in the University of Trieste, and I'm involved in particular in two projects that are part of the E-Lab, the erosion lab. In particular, the first project is an ongoing project which aims to survey by swimming method, so in the field, large sectors of rocky coasts in the Mediterranean Sea. In particular, the project started in 2012 with a swim survey of the Istrian Peninsula, 250 kilometers about. And until now, we have surveyed about 550 kilometers by swimming. So usually we swim about 10 kilometers per day and collect a large amount of images like these to produce, first to have a database, a sort of survey zero of the situation in the moment we collect images, and so to compare with the future situations of the same coastline if we recollect in another moment the same images in the same position. Then to build 3D models like this one, and to find the geomorphological structure of the coastline. And third, maybe for you the most interesting part, and we are working on this, is to find some possibilities to recognize some common elements along the coastline. For example, there are some landforms that are really important to study sea level changes. So the variation in sea level through the geological history of the Earth, and this is possible. And there are many elements, many landforms like this in the Mediterranean Sea. But they are very difficult to find as common features in the images. Then we work also on the building on the designing of the boats and the instrumentation to collect this kind of images. You can ask why by swimming, because until now we have not found the way to collect these images automatically with the boat, because the coast is very rough, and it is really difficult to navigate at a certain distance from the coastline. We swim about from 1 to 2 meters from the coastline, and to collect images without crashing on rocks, on boulders, and so on. This is a presentation. We have published also a lot of papers on this topic. This is more an open, the part regarding the recognizing of features is an open part for us, because we are swimming in the dark, so if we can say, and so it is an open question for you. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks to Professor Furlani. Of course, there are many implications, many practical projects, also with a lot of on-the-field work for who's interested maybe in a thesis project with the geoscientists. Next up, we have Dr. Luca Manzoni. I think all of you know, so not really presentation needed.
So, thank you. And well, I will talk without slide today because I want to be a little bit more interactive. So, first of all, let's talk about what is computation, because we usually perform computation using, let's say, standard computers with von Neumann architecture. That is, we have a central processing unit, we have a memory where we store the data and the program. But is this the only way we can perform computing? Well, the answer is no, usually, because there is an entire area of research called natural computing that takes inspiration from nature and to perform computations. So, let's say, for example, that you can model how the chemicals moves inside the cell, and you can somehow encode a problem, an instance of a problem in those chemicals, so that the cell produces a certain chemical if the answer is yes or no to the question. So is this computation? For you, is this computation? Who say yes? No? Well, actually, this is usually considered computation because we can actually solve the same problems that we can solve with a traditional computer, traditional computational model, for example, with moving chemical inside cells. So, for example, there is a famous experiment in the 90s where the solution to the SAT problem were encoded by using DNA. So, this is not something completely new. If you go back to the 40s and 50s, you go back to von Neumann, for example, where he defined, for example, what's called today non-conventional model of computation. We say cellular automata together also with Stanislav Ulam, which is actually a little bit more famous for things like the invention of the thermonuclear bomb. But this continued, the idea of using something unconventional, NATO-inspired for high-performance computing continued in the following years. And if we go to the 70s, then we have the invention of one particular very interesting computational model used for optimization. And let's think about what is one optimization process that is taking place even now on the inside the Earth, and is started a few billions of years ago. So, a few billions of years ago, there were the first traces of life on the Earth, and starting from that, life improved, so that now we have a very rich collection of living beings that have adapted to the environment. And by taking this same idea of improving by a recombination, that is, mixing the genetic material of two solutions and random mutations with a selection pressure from the environment, we can define an optimization method called genetic algorithm that we can use to solve very complex problems. This is also one of the topics that we will talk about in one of the PhD courses that will start tomorrow in population-based optimization methods. So, the idea, and one of my research topics, is to define a study optimization methods based on this idea of natural of evolution with natural selection, recombination, and random mutations. And also the study of unconventional computing models, like computation using the movement of chemical inside cells, or using massively parallel models with only local communications, like cellular automata. And as for the applications that we have, we are currently studying with Gloria, the modeling in this case of the ocean by means of machine learning models. And I'm also involved in the generation of artificial music using evolutionary methods, and multiple applications also on health sciences and multiple collaboration with different research across most of Europe. So thank you for your attention, and if you have any question and any idea of how you want to apply or study this kind of methods, I'm here to answer your question. Thank you. Thank you, Luca. Next up, we have another new acquaintance for us. She's Dr. Rizzo from the Department of Medicine, Medical Sciences.
Yeah, medical sciences. So I am a neurologist, okay? I am a medical doctor. I'm working in the urological department of our university hospital, okay, Trieste. I am also part of the teaching staff of the fellowship program in urology, the specialization school of urology. I'm working, my research activities is in the group of Professor Carlo Trombetta, that is the head of my department, and Professor Liguori. Briefly, urology is the branch of medicine that treats the disease of the genitourinary tract, both in male and female, and the disease of the reproductive organs in male. Okay, so andrology is a branch of urology. Just to give you some epidemiological data, prostate cancer is the most common cancer in male, okay, absolutely most common. Testis cancer is the most common cancer in male under 40, okay, and almost half of women have a urinary infection in her life. Okay, so our diseases are very, very common. Okay, so our research group published about dozen of studies per year on a different field of urology. And this is, if we can move to the slide. Yes, this is our research is possible thanks to our network. Okay, we have a very strong regional network because all the urological department of this region belong to our fellowship program. So in every department of urology work some fellow that came from our school, okay, and we have also a national network. We are and an international network. Okay, so basically these networks give us the opportunity to collect a lot of data. This is the concept. Actually, for example, I am the treasurer of the Italian Society of Andrology, and many of us are part of different committees of the Italian Society of Urology. Okay, we use a lot of technology, okay, for our activities. Every patient with a prostate cancer undergo RM analysis before the surgery. Every patient with a kidney tumor undergo CT scan before surgery. Okay, so we have these are the data that we collect, and we use the Da Vinci robotic system for many of our surgery. Okay. So these are the technology that we currently use. Okay, we can move on. we would like to conduct some study using artificial intelligence. Okay, this is an example. This is an example of what we propose. Okay, renal tumor represent around the 3% of all cancer. And we know that resection, surgical resection, is the best treatment. Okay, nowadays is the best treatment for patients with localized renal tumor. But if we go on, okay, but about 20%, okay, 20-30% of renal tumor are benign tumor. Okay, so the histology is not a malignant tumor, is not a malignant disease. There is no chance to progression to metastatic disease. This means that 20% of patients undergo unnecessary surgery. Okay, we are only giving to this patient the side effect of surgery without any benefit. Okay. So my question is, so all these patients have a TC scan, okay, before the surgery, but it's not possible for radiologists to recognize the histology of the tumor. So radiologists can define the tumor. Okay. He said that there is a tumor, but it's not possible to recognize the histology if this tumor is benign or malign. And but we know that TC scans are very full of data. Okay, maybe it would be possible collecting a lot of TC scan and knowing the histology. So a lot of TC scan of people that underwent surgery. So people, person that we know the histology of the tumor. Maybe an artificial intelligence could be trained to identify the histology, and this could spare a lot of unnecessary surgery. Okay, this is an example of what we could do together. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, so now I invite to come here to the stage Dr. Answini and Dr. Cazzaniga, or maybe only Dr. Answini, I don't know. Okay, we have a presentation which was sent us last minute. Sorry for that. And scusami, grazie. Okay, perfect. Sorry for the brief interruption.
Sorry for the being late. So, okay, thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation to the amazing opportunity to speak to you today. So I am Answini. I'm a technologist, a physicist by training, and coordinate basically scientific activities in Area Science Park that fall onto the domain of data science, machine learning, and okay. So first of all, maybe for those who doesn't know us, who we are, and so this is a set of pictures, just picture of our group, which is called Research and Technology Institute. That is a newly born group since its foundation is on March of 2009, just very, very close to the pandemic outbreak. Sorry, and this is in the center is our director Stefano, and here in this room there is also one of our researchers, PostDoc Alberto Cazzaniga here, and some of the other guys will be presented, let's say, during this very, very small presentation, but it's impossible to give credit to all of them for all what we have done in so far. Okay. And where we are, okay, very briefly, we are in Trieste, of course, and then in the next slide we have two campus in which we are dislocated in Basovizza and in Padriciano. In particular, in Basovizza is important because we have some infrastructure, and this is the subject of the next slide, because the infrastructures determine to a certain extent what we do. So important to know that we have a laboratory of genomics and epigenomics. This is just a name, actually. You can notice that there is two omics in these two fields. This suggests actually there are a lot of omics sciences. We are interested in basically all of these omics sciences. And what is the peculiar about this? It's peculiar because it's an approach that sees organism as a system, as opposed maybe to genetics, in which, for example, can I say, you isolate a gene, you study it very carefully, with very, very extremely difficult experiment, you try to guess what is the function. Here the omics says that we are trying to look at these systems at a systematic level, let's say, okay? And then, of course, this is part of the infrastructure, very important, the data center that hosts the very big data that are produced by sequencers in this laboratory, and software infrastructure, and also cloud facilities. This is something that also has been used by the students of the university in order to perform their experiments in data science. Just very briefly, I want to sketch this because maybe in the last slide it will be recalled. That is, we have many of these machines that actually sequence genomes, DNA, RNA, and also protein in some cases. And this is maybe the most expensive one and the most proficient one nowadays, but there is an evolution in this technology. And this is the last machine that we have, and this is based on completely different principle than the other ones. So just to say, these are very reliable. They produce very, very short sequences, but with really reliability which is really at top. Here, with these machines, we can sequence very, very long strands of DNA, but the reliability is much, much lower. So there is a trade-off, and this is not to say, to talk really about just machines, but this influence determines the approaches of the algorithms. And since we want to develop algorithms to make sense of this data, we must take this into account very carefully. Okay, this is our cluster. So let's talk now about algorithms. First, what are the tools, algorithmic tools that we want to use? The first, of course, is machine learning. So we use basically every relevant algorithm that has been published in machine learning. For example, we can talk about dimensionality reduction, like in this case, in which you take high-dimensional data, and to have a glimpse on it, you can project, embed it on a very, very low-dimensional space, and to see some structure. And also to quantify better this structure, for example, you can cluster this. This is in this case, we report a figure from the density peak clustering paper by Alessandro Laio and his group. But of course, if you have a very high-dimensional data set, a complex one, deep learning is very, very proficient, powerful. And what is the difference here? The difference is, the peculiarity is that you can represent data multiple times. You construct multiple representations of your data. And just studying also these representations as a scientific object in itself, it is very useful because you can discover patterns in your data. Okay. The computational goal is, there is a kind of a pattern here. Most of the times the computational goal here for what we do is not only this, but is many times to take a high-dimensional data set and project it onto a low-dimensional space to construct new maps of the data. You can make a cartography in a low-dimensional map, so you can make sense of what you see. And using combination, typically here, deep learning techniques and other algorithms like TISNI or UMAP, as we have seen. It's just, for example, you can do that as an example in the next slide. You can see the electrocardiographic signal is a very high dimensional. You have multivariate time series. Typically, you record the activity of the heart for 10 seconds. You have an order of magnitude of 10,000 points on the x-axis, the time, and then you have 12 channels. So you have a high-dimensional data set, but you can project it. Each point here is one of these objects, one patient, and then you see that you can detect some structure in a low-dimensional embedding. This is from the last hidden layer of a neural network that was trained on it. This is just the idea. So I want to talk about more on genomics and proteomics now, in particular in the domain of proteins. Genomics is a very huge field, as I said, but let's consider proteins now. This is just an example. This is a three-dimensional representation of a protein. This is a hemoglobin, so a molecular machine that basically transfers oxygen to tissues. And this is oxygen in red. And so this is a molecular machine that has been present in many organisms in the tree of life. This was just an example. And you see this very complicated three-dimensional structure. And how you describe the protein? You can start from a primary description, which is just the sequence of its amino acids. But what's important is then when this molecule is synthesized by specified machinery in the cell and go in the cytoplasm, it acquires typically a tertiary structure, a three-dimensional structure, that is the hallmark of also its function. Actually, this is a delicate question because it is a proxy to the function, but it is not necessarily a one-to-one mapping. It is much, much more delicate, the situation here, but it is a very good proxy. And okay, then maybe you know that this is an algorithm that has been published very recently by DeepMind that allows to do this prediction from the primary structure to the three-dimensional structure, really the configuration, the atomic configuration. And this is compared also with experiments in crystallography. And the performance of this algorithm are really huge, and crucially this is very important because sequences are much more accessible than three-dimensional structure. So this carries a very useful information. And we use actually this is one of the tools that we use on a daily basis, also in order to integrate the information that it does, which is really very, very valuable, with other approaches. Okay, so, and the first thing that I want to talk about what we actually do is research that is carried on by Elena Russo, which is former PhD student in SIS in the group of Alessandro Laio, and there she developed an algorithm that allows to classify, to cluster together proteins on the basis of similarity of sequence, but not necessarily on all the sequence, just a portion of it. And these portions, which are portions that are highly preserved in the domain of proteins, emerge as an output of this clustering that is based actually on the density peak. But it has very, very peculiar qualities that we are currently investigating. I will go to this 1 minute in 1 minute. And just a thing about this. You can see that given a sequence, this is a protein, let's say, there are multiple of these subsequences that are clusterized, that are preserved in the tree of life. And they supposedly perform different functions and also supposedly have a very strong give very strong constraints on the three-dimensional structure, at least given by this portion of this sequence. So proteins are classified in families that are evolutionarily related sequences, but families are actually characterized by subsequences that are similar, say. And the set of families or domains that appear here give us a proxy of the three-dimensional structure, which is called also architecture of the protein. And this is one of the things that we are studying in connection also with AlphaFold. For example, and we are led to the next slide, the clusters that we produce, the output of these algorithms, is a set of sequences. And on the basis of these sequences, you can align them and construct this kind of data structure. This data structure is very important because on this basis it's possible to see interactions between two amino acids. Even if they are far in the sequence, they can interact, for example, if they are folded then on close by positions. So for example, when one change maybe influence the probability of a change in another location. And so if this is true, it means that they are somewhat related. And it gives you a hint on the three-dimensional structure. So this is a data structure that is central in all genomics and is actually the natural output of the clustering algorithm that we imported in our research and we are developing. Okay? And then the last slide is about the work done by Alberto Cazzaniga and Francesca Cuturello, which are the two postdocs, other two postdocs that we are currently cultivating. Okay, prima. Tutto solo. Ah, okay. Okay. So, well, the question that we ask here is, okay, on the basis of what you see, these central objects that are multiple sequence alignment, the theme here is how good they are. And how good they are, for example, in supporting three-dimensional structure prediction. And here it happens a nice integration between the clustering based on density peak applied to sequences and state-of-the-art deep learning models. And in particular, we investigated two of them. It's okay, we'll accept this as a feature. Before. And yes, we studied basically a language model here, MSA transformer, which basically is very similar to a transformer applied to text, but it has some extra features because there is also a vertical dimension here for because there is a set of sequences. And so just by studying the attention mechanisms in this architecture, it is possible to do three-dimensional structure prediction. And so we assessed the quality of these clusters on the basis of the performance of this algorithm. And we did the same basically also with the AlphaFold 2, as we said, and finding very encouraging results that really call for the in-depth investigation of the question. So what is a good multiple sequence alignment? What are the best criteria to construct them? Okay. And since these are central objects in genomics, the question seems very interesting as well. And okay, there is a very, very nice metaphor of a bridge between language models, deep learning models, and the DPCFAM algorithm, which is developed in the video that we will upload very soon in the website of the students' webpage. It's not yet ready, but in a few hours it will be ready. The next slide, which is the last one. So genomics is also, is also improvement of the instruments to do research. It's not only, there are interesting problems also in this side. So that's why I stressed on the beginning these new instruments here. Actually, a very interesting problem here let me describe in just 1 second how it works. So this is a molecular machine, a pore, very similar to ionic channels that are in real cells, membranes. And this is an artificial membrane, and the pore is stick there, and there is a molecular motor here that make slide one nucleotide at a time, the DNA strand. And of course, let's look at what's inside here. There is a part of a sequence. And so if we apply a constant differential of potential here, and we just measure the current that flows here, we have the resistance, which is a hallmark of what's inside. And so on the basis of the current flow in time, we are able, in principle, to decode it and to reveal the sequence that is here. In this way, it's possible to make very, very long reads, and this clearly influences the algorithm development. Because, for example, as I said, in the first, one of the first slides of the reads of the other machines are short. So you have to assemble them together, and the problem is extremely complex, but they are reliable. These are less reliable, but they are very long. They simplify the assembly problem, but actually you have to pay the price of the relative unreliability. And so we are currently trying to work, we are not the only one, of course, but also in connection with the Oxford Nanopore company to try to develop a better caller. This is the, in jargon, this mapping. Read the original raw signal and find the sequence. This is a caller. And so this is all from my side, but I invite you to talk later if you want, also with Alberto, of course, and also to take a look at the video that will be uploaded hopefully in a few hours, maybe tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now, I think in a couple of minutes we can start with the meet and greet, the virtual part. The physical part of the meet and greet can start now. And I will invite, specifically, just let me check the schedule. Okay, I will invite Dr. Leonardo Gidi to come here, and Professor Furlani to go on the upper part of the room, where there are the virtual rooms. Okay, perfect. Just a second, and for the people following online, just head to the link in the description for the methods to access the virtual meet and greet. What?
Yes.
Okay, buondì. Hi.
The first challenge is the space search of any kind of Facebook information that we have. For example,
Abbiamo persi.
this first challenge can create a meta that can describe the space also. The second challenge.
Vabbè, vediamo se si ripresentano. Bene, no, era bene, solo che il problema è stato veramente la paura di non entrare. Perché a un certo punto questi tamponi, queste cose, non mi piace. Solo che il rischio è ripetere.
Penso che da noi non l'hanno purificato.
No, sì, lo so, poi loro pensano che siamo noi ad avere i problemi, come avete voi problemi, no, cioè in verità noi spieghiamo anche in maniera molto ligia, loro lì cambiano la cosa che non so se il tracciamento funzionerà, non dico, però è la vita. Vabbè, comunque è andata bene. Se questo magari dovessi essere all'aperto, grazie. Visto la lasciamo stare, per favore. Ho precisato che cioè, per un mese non parlerò di calcio, non guardo. Tu sei juventino? Che puttana,
Io
beh, pensa a me, cioè, scusa, io ho detto, vabbè, insomma, è una scala, noi abbiamo una scala, ogni volta c'è questi attacchi di panico, ma io dico, no, non succederà, potrà finire 3-3 all'ultimo, e poi ho detto, anche no, ho chiesto dei quanti ne scelta.
il secondo gol in carriera totale, quando gioca a calcio.
Sì, ma la Roma, cioè io mi sono abituato, la Roma è una squadra che può succedere di tutto. La Roma ne può prendere 6 da dei norvegesi, farsi fare 3 gol in 7 minuti. Io lo so questo, una ferita che ogni volta si riapre. non c'è
Il rigore calciato
sì, ma anche perché poi Szczesny era giù, cioè Szczesny era praticamente già giù.
si era già buttato.
Dico, poi sti cazzo di rigori ma tira una bomba, cioè tira una bomba, vedi come va. No, guarda, è stata drammatico. Poi io amo Mourinho, a me piace, c'è anche cioè, personaggi istrionici, tutto quello che vuoi, però cioè, l'allenatore c'ha dei problemi lì, come fai? E io dico, no? Vedi che la squadra sta mollando un po', hanno messo dentro Arthur e Morata freschi. Ma cazzo, ragazzi, adesso continuiamo a giocare normalmente, no? Ho fatto il gol di Locatelli.
Anche il gol di De Sciglio non lo marcava proprio, erano in due,
Sì,
dovevano
sì.
passare.
Roma dietro dovrebbe prendere tutti e mandarli via, perché Vanez non è da Serie A, forse non è neanche da Serie B. Smalling è povero, sì, è un po', insomma, c'ha 6 anni Smalling, no? Però anche lui non è più ovviamente sulla cresta. E poi, vabbè, mancava Mancini, va bene, per carità, però ragazzi, imbarazzante.
Anche noi siamo.
Sì, ma infatti quello che dico è che appunto, ieri quando ha fatto il 0-1 è fatta anche perché la Juve non è una bella Juve.
Penso che sia la peggior Juve che abbiamo visto, anche quello del Napoli.
Sì, voglio dire, ma insomma, qualche giocatore sempre c'è forte, a me ieri per esempio cosa, quello che fa titolare è cattivo, per carità. Ma dici, sì, infatti fa ancora più male pensare che poi non è servita a niente, perché ha fatto un gol pazzesco. Però voglio dire, la Juve 2 o 3 giocatori ce l'ha, il problema è che gioca male. Quindi per quello anche detto, che facciamo? Perdere così. Sì.
Abbiamo Rabiot ben percorso,
No,
poi c'era sì.
Ranzo danno via, vabbè. Locatelli secondo me sì è bravo, però un po'.
Hai bisogno di qualcuno che sappia giocare, non può fare tutto. Il pure è bravo solo a fare pallone, e perde subito, Rabiot non è bravo per niente.
Infatti. E poi risolto Locatelli, ma non lo vedo sul pezzo.
Solo bisogno di qualcuno che lo aiuti. Perché adesso deve fare il regista, il piano, fare tutto.
Però è bravo, cioè, è un bel giocatore. Solo che sì, in questo momento qua. No, sì, l'Inter secondo me l'Inter vince. Boh, insomma, l'Inter
Anche l'Atalanta, con calma.
Sì.
L'Atalanta carbura tardi.
Sì, quello è vero, quello è vero. Ho detto però che secondo me hanno già perso. Non so come gli possano limitare all'Inter, però è una bella squadra.
Perché alla fine l'Inter ieri ha giocato bene, vorremmo più tempo. Ha giocato bene, però non è che ha creato tantissimo.
No, però è solida.
È solida, è come la Juve.
Sì.
Fa molto, però è dai.
Poi io temo che appunto Bastoni è forte, giovane, Skriniar comunque è sempre forte. Io temo che questi abbiano aperto così. Un po' come è successo alla prima Juve, no? Con Conte, poi Allegri.
Secondo me anche perché adesso i problemi finanziari, quindi quello che secondo me io l'Inter.
Perché non c'è nessuno collegato?
No, abbiamo visto che prima si sono provati a collegare 2 o 3 ragazzi, però poi li abbiamo persi. Quindi,
No, perché se no.
infatti io adesso sì, lascio a chi verrebbe dopo, perché magari se. Però vedo che. Sì.
Ok.
Se non caso
Com'è?
no, dopo ho iniziato a scuola. Sono metà da scuola. Sono un po'.
No, ascolta Luca, the choice.
Infatti forse interessante.
C'è una scelta
La lista di 8 esami che devo scegliere. Anche perché sono dei corsi che avrei preferito seguire rispetto ad altri, che però non posso seguire perché sono altri c'è il corso di accademia che non è proprio, non sarebbe stata la mia scelta più magari
cioè che il bello e il brutto secondo me, perché è bella me però dall'altro finisce che 2 sono laureati nella stessa cosa e hanno tutti gli esami diversi. Secondo me è tanto, c'è tanta differenza.
secondo me non lo so. Avrebbero potuto mettere 2 esami extra. Però poi diventa tutto crediti.
Adesso sentivo che anche il fatto che si diceva che poteva fare adesso una sorta di core, cioè della serie, si può fare una roba in un corso, mettiamoci d'accordo, per quello che diventare le 3 corde con l'università, no, ci possiamo fare per omologare, secondo
me sì, ho visto 3 volte Natural Language Processing, 3 volte le basi in 3 corsi diversi. Si può tagliare perché il corso di Introduction to Machine Learning, come quello con le televisioni, si pensano molti piedi, quindi si poteva piuttosto fare un corso da 12 al primo anno non era.
è un corso di laurea giovane con tanta gente tra l'altro che cambia negli anni, servirebbe un po' la riorganizzazione. Avete la fortuna di essere un corso di laurea veramente tedesco, bello, quando parlare di se avessi avuto io un po' di anni fa, io avrei senso di roba sempre male, tanta roba, tanto torchiati, però insomma, dai.
Non so neanche perché i miei colleghi che hanno fatto della triennale, che hanno fatto la scienza attuariale oppure di quella mista quella attuariale, quindi se uno vuole fare attuariale, l'altro mi sembra un po' le carte da
se uno non è interessato all'attuariale, secondo me questa è la scelta giusta. C'è qualcuno, ma non so se...
Del moderatore.
Ah, moderatore, ok. Va bene, dai, vi lascio la sedia allora intanto qua.
C'è qualcuno qua presente?
Allora, erano arrivati 2 ragazzi,
Sì.
li abbiamo persi perché io non li sentivo, non so se era per me.
Ok.
Però c'era qualcuno prima che è entrato, tipo, aspetta chi era? Era entrato qualcuno ma l'abbiamo perso.
Vabbè, insomma, dai, ok. E boh, insomma, dai.
Però da online è sempre difficile, quindi non so, casomai se si chiedono di...
Sì, esatto, sì. Sì, perché purtroppo il problema, adesso magari
you.